Hello and welcome to Sideways. This week, Martin made me watch a film about an alcoholic pilot flying an aircraft so that we could discuss the questions it throws up about the way addicts think. I was left with the feeling that I definitely don't want to be on a plane with Denzil Washington. Duty free.
Hello.
Hello. You've got a mask on indoors. That's actually a snood you got yourself there, isn't it?
Yeah, I was just trying to keep myself safe during the podcast.
Look, actually, it's quite an attractive look. It's much better than normal. Can you pull it up so I can't see any of your face at all?
I'll punch your face. How do you like that? How do you like them apples?
Sounds a bit violent to me. No, that's unnecessary.
Anyway, I'm going to take it off now. Yeah, sorry. I was sitting here thinking, why are you so late? And then I realised I hadn't sent you the invite.
Exactly. Yeah, well, it's only just gone 5:30, but yeah, I thought, oh, I'm not going to. You're not bothered to. You haven't bothered to organise a meeting, so I'm going to watch Watford Man City instead.
Oh yeah. Before we get going, in 6 minutes and 15 seconds, I'm going to have to leave briefly so I can turn the oven down on the bread, and then after that. 10 minutes after that, I'm going to have to go again so I can get the bread out of the oven.
My God, it's a little bit inconvenient, this podcast business for you, isn't it? It's in the way.
Yeah, I didn't want to say that, but now you come to mention it.
I think your attitude's bang out of line.
Well, anyway, so how are you?
Yeah, a little bit sore.
Sore?
Yeah.
Why?
Well, yeah, a couple of reasons. Well,
you mean sore emotionally or sore physically?
No, not emotionally. Well, no, physically. I've been working. I've been out in the sun all day today.
Have you got sunburn on your head?
Well, the back of my neck feels a little bit sore, and I'm a little bit sore. No, I forgot to take one with me, so I was exposed to the elements, and also I'm a little bit sore because I fell over.
Literally.
Yeah, I fell down a rockery. What's funny about that? What's funny about that?
You've got to tell me. I need all the details. Tell me exactly what happened. I mean, I'm absolutely convinced that 99% of our listeners will be desperate to hear all about you falling down a rockery.
No, I don't think you should lie. I could have hurt myself. I could have, hurt my spleen or something. I mean, what's wrong with you?
Did you go right over?
Yeah, I was. Yeah. Luckily, I was working on my own. Luckily, no one saw, so I was able to brush myself down a little bit. I was doing a bit of refurb work on some decking, and the decking was at the top of this rockery. I had to climb up the rockery to get to a part of it and slipped, and ended up back down the bottom of it on the grass. So
you went down. Just so we're clear, because it's important. Yeah. You landed on your front? You didn't go down backwards?
No. I slipped and went sort of on my front and slid down, sort of tumbled, and just ended up laying on my back on the grass, looking at the sky. Oh,
I wish I'd seen that. That must have been magnificent.
No, I don't think. I think again, your attitude's wrong today. In many ways, you shouldn't be laughing. You should be sympathising, saying, "There. Hope you're okay."
Do you remember that time we saw someone fall off a bus?
I do. Yeah, I mean, it is quite funny watching other people fall over, but I don't like it when it happens to me.
No, nothing could beat that lady who fell over in McDonald's that time.
That was quite hilarious. Yeah, well, a Big Mac and chips and a strawberry milkshake went everywhere, didn't it? Which was.
Dear. Weird. So, quite frankly, this episode's going to have to go some distance to beat that start.
Yeah, well, yeah, it is really. It's on a more serious matter.
Yeah.
Have you done your homework?
What do you think?
Probably not.
Well, I think you underestimate me. I'm nothing if not a consummate professional. So I have done my homework.
You have, wicked. Because you remember, we touched on it last week, didn't we? At the end of the last episode, about what we were going to talk about this week, which was about the film called. We were going to look at some of the aspects that arose out of the film called Flight.
Yes.
So, I mean, did you enjoy it?
Did I enjoy it? Well, I did enjoy much of it. Yes, I did. I did quite enjoy it, actually. It was a bit overlong, I thought. But without turning this into a movie review, I thought, in terms of the sort of subject matter that we're interested in debating here, I thought it threw up a lot of very interesting points. Yes,
it did. It did.
Although I have to say, it didn't really help with my lack of fondness for flying.
I was going to touch upon that first because back in season 1, episode 13, we talked about fear, didn't we? And we talked about then the fear of flying, which is either aerophobia or aviophobia, whichever one you want to call it. And do you remember I was talking about how I sort of feigned that so that I could have loads of drink before I got on the plane?
Yeah.
But I think you're right. Anyone that watches that film would think if they have got if they're not overly keen on flying, that might put them off a little bit.
The sequence at the start there, I mean, it doesn't matter about spoilers, does it? Because people aren't listening to this for movie reviews. I actually thought that the sequence of the crash at the start was the most frightening thing of its kind that I've ever seen on film.
It was pretty and
apparently terrifying.
It was terrifying. Apparently, it is loosely based on real events. So when they say loosely, I'd imagine there's been a lot of artistic license being used there. But apparently, it's pretty nasty, wasn't it? I mean, the subject about the film came up in on one of their Zoom meetings. And when one of the girls on the Zoom meeting said that she'd watched it in rehab, I knew that it was probably going to be worth watching, because I know when you go into rehab, they carefully monitor what you watch, because they don't want you to be watching films that's got glorifies drink or drugs, and those are the people in the group that had seen it. And said how much they related to it. And it brought up some of the reminders how I used to behave, certainly. I mean, the basis of the film, again, I don't think we're going to worry about spoilers here, but it's obviously about Denzil Washington, which I thought he did. He played his part particularly well. But it's about a pilot with a drink problem, isn't it? Which, again, is not ideal, is it?
No, I don't suppose. I expect it. It does occur, but no, it's not ideal. I don't think any of us would relish the thought of getting on a plane with a drunk pilot, would we? No. They're not happy bedfellows, are they? Alcoholics and flying planes. But I think it was quite a good insight, though. It's just like a side here that it shows, how people have all, I see Denzil obviously was playing a seemingly upright, intelligent member of society, and was affected by the disease of addiction. And I think that there's several parts in the film which I want to go into that I thought they portrayed aspects of addiction particularly well. Go on.
I don't know how you. Okay, well, I'll start with. I think the first bit you see really is when he's pouring some vodka into his orange juice. Mm-hmm. You see that he's on the flight deck, isn't he? Just about to go and sit in the cockpit. And I wrote down in my notes here, there's it was an early sign of a problem there. But thinking about it, that's not, there are much earlier signs than that, really. I think once you get to that point when you're secretly hiding a spirit inside, a soft drink or orange juice or whatever, I think you're quite the way down the road to being. I think at that point you're probably a functioning alcoholic. You're carrying on with your normal job, which he was in this case, but still having, sneaky drinks to help him through.
Do you think at that sort of point, so thinking about the stage that he was at the film there, where he's effectively having a livener to get himself to work, like that, do you think in the normal course of events, when someone is at that stage where they're having to have a drink first thing in the morning, or they've got, as you did, a bottle of vodka in the filing cabinet at work, do you think that most people who are at that stage would recognise themselves as having a drink problem, or do you think there would still be do you think people would still, to a large extent, be in denial about that?
Yeah, you deny to the very last, really.
How do you explain that to yourself then?
I used to explain it to myself. I thought, I probably have got a problem, but I can handle it.
Okay, but I remember, because you said to me something last week when we were talking about when you were making me watch a film against my will, you said to me that you thought one of the things that would be interesting would be that the kind of difference in the way that some of the events in the film are perceived by a recovering alcoholic and by someone who hasn't had an addiction problem.
Yes.
Which, and I totally get that. But to me, it seems that if you are in a situation where you're, hiding drink in the office at work, or you're having to have a drink, to get yourself into work, that really is taking a significant amount of denial for you to say, yeah, I might have a bit of a problem, but I can handle it. Because, if you were saying that to me, I'd say, but you're patently not bloody handling it, are you?
Well, that's the difference. You see, that in the addict's head, it is something which is just it's become more normalised. Yeah. I think the first time you do it, you think, this is probably a bit of an issue. But again, I won't do it all the time.
Right.
And then you gradually you do it all the time.
Right. So it's almost like an extension of the I'll have a pound in the fruit machine, and then before you know what's happened, you spent 10 quid in it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. It's that sort of scenario, and it carries on like that. And as we know, the addiction is a condition which doesn't get better on its own.
No,
it just increases.
Yeah,
it increases. The problem increases. So that at that stage when he's putting an amount like that into his orange juice, he's quite the way down the line. Quite the way down the line, and he's needing it just to keep him going.
Mm-hmm.
But I think one of the other signs that which was later on in the film, which I'll probably come back to, but is about the manipulation of other people to lie for you. That struck a bit of a chord, because obviously he was asking other people that are on the flight to lie about him, that he'd been drinking, etc. Where before the hearing was going to be taking place. And I remember doing exactly the same sort of thing, and a lot of people in addiction do that, where they will ask other people to lie for them, to where they've been and what they've been up to and that sort of thing, so you can carry on and indulge yourself.
What I thought was quite interesting about the film was the way that the story set up this idea of he was this alcoholic that had got into this plane, flown this plane drunk and under the influence of drugs as well, but he'd done something really heroic. And it was like there was this really difficult kind of moral question here about, well, hang on, there's nothing to prove that his alcoholism or his lack of sobriety had caused the problem. So, and he didn't use these words, but his argument was, what's the big deal? Yeah, I might have been drunk, but it wasn't my fault. It was the plane. The plane wasn't fit to fly or something. And I found that a really interesting kind of moral dilemma. I mean, obviously, for most people, they wouldn't find themselves in that situation on a day-to-day basis. But it struck me as something that would probably be very common amongst addicts, which would be that they would see past the bit of the story that they didn't want to look at, and instead they'd focus on something else. And I wondered what your take on that is.
No, that is exactly right. I think we would do that. I mean, it's the same as if you have a crash in your car. If someone, for example, it happened to me. I was drunk and driving about, and someone hit me in the rear of the car, and I had to get away from the scene pretty quickly. It wasn't my fault, and I kept convincing myself, "Well, that's not my fault." I was. But if the police had turned up, I'd have been banged to rights, and there would have been no mitigating circumstances.
Yeah, because it's not about actually what happened; it's about the state that you find yourself in and what can happen in that situation.
Yeah, very much so. I wasn't going to use that phrase anymore, very much so, but you've dragged it out of me.
We haven't said etc. yet this week.
I haven't. Well, you've made me very conscious about that.
Well, that's good. That's the whole point of bringing something into consciousness.
Is that right?
When something's unconscious, there's nothing you can do about it. But by shaming you and ridiculing you, I've actually helped you solve a problem. So you should be thanking me.
Well, if that's your brand of psychotherapy, shaming people into changing their ways, I'm not sure I like you.
Yeah. So anyway, getting back to Flight, they were the two big things that came out of that whole film for me. That the depth of denial about the problem and the responsibility, and the seeming ease with which he was able to kind of place blame in different places, well, quite frankly, anywhere apart from at his own door.
Yeah, it's quite interesting that those are the bits you picked up on, because I did pick up on those, but that seems to have been the major ones for you. There was other bits that came along, and I won't go into too much depth, otherwise this podcast could go on forever. But I think that that it shows how tricky it is to strike up a new relationship in early recovery, where the boot was slightly on the other foot when that girl he met was in hospital, and she was having real trouble with. Well, she was a heroin addict, effectively, wasn't she? And then she went off to AA.
He went to a meeting, didn't he, with her?
He went to a meeting with her and skipped out, and she carried on. The relationship broke down because she wanted to carry on with her sobriety, and he clearly didn't. And that we see that happen a lot, which is why it's one of the reasons we say don't get into a relationship in early recovery, because you can end up doing exactly that. It would have been very easy for that girl to have turned back to her old ways in that. So I thought that was quite an interesting point and well dealt with.
It was nicely handled, and I just got to stop you there because now I've got to go and take the bread out of the oven again.
Honestly, I can't believe it.
Anyway, the bread looks nice. If it's of any interest to you,
it is of interest because I'm hoping the loaf's on its way to me.
Well, you don't bother coming around to get one anymore, do you?
Well, I only come round if I'm invited. I can't just turn up and demand bread. That would be pretty wrong, wouldn't it?
Anyway, yes, the thing about the relationship.
Yes.
See, for me, and it might be different for you, but for me, I put that under the broad heading of denial, because there she is, seemingly devoted to her recovery and trying to get herself clean, and he's still in this position where he's like, well, no, I haven't really got a problem. I think I'm all right. I think I can handle it. I think they had a little conversation, didn't they, at one point where he was asking her to go away with him.
Yeah.
Saying, no, my recovery's in jeopardy. And he was saying, well, if I don't get sober, then you can come away again. Well, it's not as easy as that, is it?
It isn't. And there's an element of denial in there, but I think it's a different aspect that we're looking at there is how relationships are tricky in early recovery, which I've seen cause problems a lot in the past. But I think it was interesting that overall the film showed how alcoholics will still drink even though it's causing the destruction of everything around them.
Yeah.
Like when he's drinking heavily before very important meetings, etc. And I remember doing exactly the same. It was that whatever the importance of the meeting, it still wasn't as high a priority of getting drink and drugs. Exactly. It sort of reminded me a little bit when I was on a business meeting up in Edinburgh, and we'd been put up in this really, really lovely hotel, the George Hotel in Edinburgh, a real beautiful hotel. And we'd had the meeting in the hotel. I was up there with my client and one of the investment companies. And we had a dinner and everything. We were drinking lots of wine, and it was all going swimmingly. And we had a couple of beers at the bar, and then everyone went off to bed, and I went off to my room. And then as soon as I heard all the other doors click shut, I opened up and went back downstairs to the bar. But as I was going down another flight of staircase was one of the other guys that was also in the meeting, and he said, "No, I haven't had enough to drink either." And we sat there and drunk this a bottle of single malt whiskey between us till the early hours of the morning. We had a meeting the next day, and we were both terrible. But it was. I can understand, when he really needed that drink, he was going to go to any lengths to get it, and I didn't have to work very hard to get that. But it did remind me the hotel setting and how destructive our drinking can be.
Well, I mean, I suppose the other thing that's very dangerous about a hotel is that anything goes in a hotel, and nothing's going to be questioned in a hotel, is it? No one's going to say to you, you turn up at the hotel bar when the porter's on at sort of 1:30 in the morning. He's not going to say, "Oh, do you think you should be having another one, sir?" He's there. He's that's whatever you want, mate.
It is. There's an anonymity in those sort of rooms as well, in those sort of hotels, and exactly. You can do whatever you like. Mm. But I think also what I found quite interesting was how, and this comes up quite a lot in groups, is how we use one drug to overcome the effects of the first one you take. In his case, he was blind drunk, and then he was taking cocaine to get him back up to speed again. Mm. I've known people that will use heroin to come down off of something like ecstasy, etc. If they're on a bad trip and they can't come down, they'll take something else to come down off it, like heroin, which will bring them back down slowly. It's a terrible spiral.
You really are on a desperately slippery slope, aren't you? Then
you're in a terrible spiral. And I thought when I saw him doing that, I thought that is a big problem.
Mm.
But I thought the final admission came, when he really couldn't go on any further, and his decision to come clean in court, when he could quite have easily got away with it at that point. And I would have thought I would have probably taken the easy way out there, I must admit.
Okay, so I'm glad you brought that up, because I was really interested about this point in the film, and I haven't really worked this out yet, but there was something about that kind of culmination of the story that jarred a little bit with me. The way that it was portrayed in the film, it seemed as if for Denzil Washington, at least, or his character, that there was a kind of almost like a sudden light bulb moment. It's almost like right, that's it. Do you think for the majority of people who get into recovery, that is how it happens?
Not really, no. Light bulb moments, I suppose you tend to run out of options. And I think what I thought was a little bit false was that he still had options there to carry on his drinking. And that didn't seem to me to be a rock bottom, where most people get to before they address their issues. And so that didn't ring particularly true to me, and I was a bit disappointed with that as well.
Okay, I'm glad you said that, because it just felt to me as if it was almost like a 180-degree turn. There'd been no indication of it coming, and it was almost. I mean, I know it was obviously as a story, but it was almost as if, well, how are we going to end this?
Yeah.
And there was a kind of. Do you remember when we did the Tony Slattery episode a few weeks ago? I said to you, we had a conversation about the end of that, and you said to me that you were disappointed in the end because you felt, you wanted him to have been dry for 6 months or something, and what.
Yeah.
And I said to you, I'm kind of glad it didn't end like that, because it felt to me as if the end of that story about Tony Slattery was in keeping with the rest of it. And I think that was the problem I had with the portrayal of addiction in this film. It felt like the culmination of it. It almost came too soon. From what I've seen, that realization that you've got to do something about your problem is mostly a very slow and painful experience. It's not a sudden, moment of illumination in a courtroom.
No, obviously there was a moral dilemma he was going through there, and I thought, thinking about it myself, it would have taken much more than that to jolt me into a position where thinking, right, this is it, I'm going to give up drinking now.
Yeah, if it had been my picture on the wall there, you'd have blamed me, wouldn't you?
Definitely. That's an easy out. And then I've gone to the bar to get my congratulatory drink in. The court case was over, and I could carry on in my own sweet little way, which shows how morally wrong you can be at that point, which is why I didn't think it was particularly accurate.
Yeah.
But I think it wasn't abrupt ending. But it links in with finally accepting responsibility for your actions and looking to make amends going forward, which is what he was trying to do in jail and that sort of thing, which fits in with sort of step 8 and step 9 in the 12-step program. And although I'm not
wasn't it, that bit?
It was, yeah, it was. I think it was a way of just sort of wrapping it up. But yeah, I think it could have been wrapped up differently. But I just wonder how fast and loose they were playing with the actual storyline as far as accuracy and factuality was concerned.
It just felt to me as if they're. I mean, I know it wasn't supposed to be a documentary about addiction. It was a story, so it's like I think we're probably. I don't want to be kind of too hard about it, because we're looking at it from a different perspective than if we'd just gone to the cinema and bought some popcorn. But I felt at the end when he was in prison, he was talking to the other prisoners about his sobriety. I quite like that part. I mean, I think, you all have seen this obviously much more often than I have, but I think that sort of reconciliation with oneself does happen in recovery, doesn't it?
It does, yeah.
It was the way that he got from the chaos of his addiction to the making amends that all felt a little bit rushed to me. And then
it was, yeah.
Sorry, and then right at the end where his son comes to visit him, and his son asks him who he is.
Yeah,
I thought that was a really nice ending, because that goes back to something we were talking about a couple of weeks ago, doesn't it?
who are you? Yeah, it does. It does very much so. Yeah, it wrapped up okay in the end, but I think the bridge between the two sets of circumstances we were talking about earlier on was the wrong bridge. Yeah.
So as you made me watch a film this week, and before next week's episode, I want you to watch Honey, I Shrunk the Kids.
I've actually already seen it, so yeah. I mean, it's a classic, isn't it?
I don't know if I've ever seen it, actually. It's too popular.
Well, yeah, exactly. But there was the follow-up then, wasn't it? Honey, I Blew Up the Kids, where they make the kids really big. So, yeah, neither of them are very good.
Oh, so is that what that title meant? Honey, I Blew Up the Kids made them bigger? I thought it meant exploded them.
No. Oh. Well, yeah, that's what I would have thought at first. That would have made a more interesting film, that's for sure.
Yeah, surely it should have been Honey, I've Enlarged the Kids, shouldn't it?
Yeah, it's not quite as a snappier title, is it?
Yeah, but it's more grammatically correct, surely.
Absolutely right. Well,
right.
I suppose you've got to go and do some more of your bread or whatever you're doing.
Well, I haven't got another bread's cooked now. I've got to make some minestrone soup, get some hummus out, and make a salad.
Okay, I'm going to go and put some ointment on my knees.
I wish I'd have seen that on film. That would have been magnificent.
I did, when I was laying on the grass at the bottom, I did sort of laugh to myself, because I thought, this is just silly. And I'm just really pleased I was on my own. There wasn't anyone else there to rip into me. But if I would have laughed.
There literally is nothing funnier, is there, than people falling over?
No, there isn't. And that's why I think, and if I'd seen someone else do it, I'd have been in absolute stitches. So
anyway, right, I'm going now because I've got to make some salad.
God bless you.
Go and find some ointment for your knees. See you again next week.
Oh, yeah. I look forward to it, mate.
All right, then. Bye.
Okay. Bye.
Sideways was created by Graham Landy and Martin Pankhurst. If you want to read more about our work, visit grahamlandywellbeing.co.uk/sideways-podcast. You can follow us on Twitter, and you can find us on our Facebook page at Sideways Podcast, and you can email us to let us know what you think of the show and with anything else you'd like to ask us. And finally, we want to thank you for listening and ask that if you've enjoyed what you've heard, that you spread the word. And we'll see you next week. And stop when it's all gone by. I'm flying home, falling in the arms forever known, pushing back the dark with broken bones, falling in the arms forever known, pushing back the dark. And the sun began to rain, and it came down on me, and I finally found a flame for you. Pushing back the dark